As well as the prima guitarist's ego clash, other things made life hard for the band on the road.
Yeah, when we travel around the States, especially down in the South, because of our long hair, people would think we were dropouts from the Vietnam War, so they wouldn't realise that we were a band from England, you know, southwest London, coming to play blues music. And they'd think we were dropouts, and they'd often, you know, threaten us and sort of threaten to beat us up or whatever, you know, and argue with us and stuff.
We were on a dreadful Dick Clark tour in America. Now, I don't know if you know Dick Clark, and he's done wonderful things for American rock music, but he used to put some very tough tours together where he used to sort of mix up, you know, Brian Hyland and the Yardbirds and the Ronettes or whatever, all in a bus, and you drive around America and do a zillion shows a day, and it was like show business slave labor. And it was at that point that Jeff decided that I don't feel too good and I don't like this and I'm going to pull out. So he just dropped from the tour. But, you know, Jimmy, being the consummate professional, said, no, we are contracted, we must go on and we must do this, and we adapted as a four-piece. So he ended up with that big bit of stage.
Jeff Beck was becoming disenchanted with the fact there were now two lead guitarists in the group, and he became a bit of a booker's risk. Often he didn't turn up to concerts, and during a particularly harrowing American tour, he absented himself once too often and was sacked. And the Yardbirds chose the simplest expedient of carrying on as a four-piece, and that was essentially the blueprint for Led Zeppelin.
It was 1968, and the musical landscape was changing.
I think that there was a stronger emphasis on albums at that point. Record companies were sinking far more of their budget into sort of making, you know, concept albums, rock operas, that sort of thing. I think, you know, with Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, it was rather sort of expensive precedent. And groups were finding they were having to operate on two levels. They were actually having to sort of indulge their musicianly fancies on albums, but at the same time, you know, as my friend Jim McCarty says, you know, if you didn't have a hit single, you're a fading group.
We were doing maybe, I don't know, 500 shows a year, and quite simply the Yardbirds, I think, just burnt out. Of course, Jimmy had only been in the band for, I don't know, 18 months or something like that, and he was still fresh.
By 1968, the group had essentially split into two factions. There was the singer Keith Relf and drummer Jim McCarty, who favoured a more sort of acoustic and pastoral approach. And whereas on the other hand, Chris Dreja and Jimmy Page wanted to sort of be a lot more sort of hard and heavy. And as a result, the group split up after a final showdown at Luton Technical College.
All that was left of the Yardbirds was Jimmy, with Peter still managing.
Jimmy, you know, then formed his four-piece band. The Yardbirds had a few contractual engagements left as band contracts. Jimmy did them under the name of the New Yardbirds before he changed the name to Led Zeppelin.
There was still work to be done, so Jimmy Page was the current guitarist in the Yardbirds, so Peter Grant said to Jimmy Page, get a band together, we'll go and do these dates. I think it was as simple as that. I don't think at the time probably it was supposed to be any big deal. I think it just sort of lucky accident that it turned into something that it did, really.